Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Yes, very good, very good. My name is Christopher Ludwig. Hopefully most of you know me, but if you don't, I'm the editor of the Automotive Logistics Group, responsible for our magazines and publications, and working with Louis Yakumi for actually near upon 10 years now. So I'm kind of as old as this company as the conference. So it's been a pleasure to see it grow and flourish, develop together along with the Indian automotive logistics industry. We've got a really interesting panel here put together. It's called Accelerating Efficiency, and effectively I think we're going to sort of build upon some of the topics we discussed in the first session, where we learned about some of the potential that can be unlocked in India, perhaps by some of the regulatory changes we're seeing with GST, with the railways, and particularly we're going to kind of bring that back to the industry level to a certain extent here with some of our speakers from car makers and some important logistics providers and suppliers, as well as, again, someone else from government who's been able to join us, whom I'll introduce in a moment. And that's because, again, sort of, I think although we know the government has a big role to play, obviously the people in this room, the industry, the innovation from the sector is also critically important. And you also heard from the government this morning how the investment in rail, whilst is very important from the Indian Railways, actually they need support from the sector itself, particularly on the rolling stock. So I think it's always important to focus on the know-how and things we can do in industry today. So I think that's hopefully some of the stuff we're going to touch upon in this session. And maybe again kind of reflecting on the 10-year theme. I think it's one of the things that's always been impressive to me and continues to be is how developed and flourishing actually the automotive logistics industry in India is. We often hear a lot about how fragmented and the logistics sector in India is, and the high costs of logistics relative to GDP, and all of that of course is true, but when you drill down into automotive, it's often sort of a standout to some extent compared to other parts of the industry. And we see a lot of innovative concepts put into place, whether it's milk runs, just in time, just in sequence, returnable packaging schemes, now increasingly more multimodal. Of course, there's a lot of potential to increase all of this, and again, we're going to touch upon that for the rest of the conference. But again, I just think it's worth pointing out how far the industry has already come. Allow me to introduce our panel to you. We're going to have effectively 3 presentations and also some words from the member of government who's also joined us, and then we'll save some time for Q&A. First up, we're going to hear from Devendra Bharambe, who's the Deputy General Manager for Demand Chain Management at Mahindra & Mahindra. We'll then hear from DK Rai, the Director of Business for CHEP. We're also pleased to have Vegard, Synnes, Senior Business Development Manager for CDC Group, who'll give us a perspective on China and what sort of some of the maybe comparing and contrasting a little bit some of this logistics scenario that we see between India and China. And a last minute, very welcome addition to our panel is Shrikant Mahiyaria from the Inland Waterways Authority of India, part of the Ministry of Shipping, who's going to give us an overview of what we can expect on inland waterways side in India over the next couple of years, specifically for the automotive space. So a really interesting selection of panelists. Apologies if you hear me yelp at all during this session, as we expect the final US election results to come in advance. But otherwise, we'll keep the focus on the efficiency here in India, and I'd like to invite our first speaker.
Thank you, Christopher. And good morning to ladies and gentlemen. My name is Devendra Bharambe. I represent Mahindra & Mahindra Automotive Division. So today the topic is accelerating efficiencies, and I'll be presenting for 10 to 15 minutes, giving the challenges and opportunity in the Indian automobile industry. And also a case study at Mahindra & Mahindra, how we have driven the efficiencies in the inbound logistics. So entire my presentation will be based upon the inbound logistics and what are the challenges, opportunities, and how we are combating on those, and how we are leveraging on the opportunities. So Let's have a quick look on the Indian automobile industry. So we are the sixth largest car manufacturer in the world, and expected to reach the third by FY17. We are growing at 9.4% CAGR since last 10 years, and contributing to 7.1% in the Indian GDP. The automotive component business also growing very fast and expected to reach almost $100 billion by 2020. So on infrastructure, some of the quick facts on the road infrastructure. So we are the second largest road infrastructure in the world, but that comes with its own challenges. The average speed in the Indian roadways is almost 1/3 than the average speed in the most of the developed countries. Also, the national highway forms only 2% of the total road network, and that carries almost 40% of the load, and only 14% of the national highways having 4 lanes or more. So these are the facts on the roadways. Railways, as we have seen in the earlier presentation, it is more focused on passengers and transportation of commodities, and maybe to a few extent some of the finished goods in terms of automotive vehicles, but hardly used for any component transportation as such. In fact, in automotive, rail transport is considered as a premium freight for inbound logistics. So in nutshell, there are challenges on the infrastructure front, and will continue for some more time to go. So what are the other challenges than apart from the infrastructure? The challenges are lack of availability of good quality logistic professionals. There is very low penetration of IT. We are still practicing many of the manual operations in the areas like warehousing and all. 3PL, there is very low usage of 3PL. Only 55% of the Indian automobile industries are using 3PL as compared to 75% globally. Tracking and visibility has its own issues. And also outbound being a customer facing, it has given more focus and importance than the inbound, and hence less resources are allotted for the inbound logistics as such. Inefficient backhaul and empty return trips also larger issues in the inbound logistics. So all these inefficiencies leads to the higher cost, and in India we are spending almost 13% of our GDP in logistic cost, which is very high as compared to some of the developed countries. So these are the typical objectives of any inbound logistics manager. He wants lower freight, lower lead times, lower inventories, less damages, better productivity and efficiencies, better visibilities. So what are the opportunities? So in terms of infrastructure, there are a lot of things are happening, and government is having very high focus on the infrastructure front, and there are things are happening on all the kinds of transportation modes, and definitely the improvement in the infrastructure is going to help us to improve the logistic efficiencies and improve upon the cost and visibility. Apart from that, the implementation of GST will open up the state boundaries, and that will be a great relief for the logistic industry. So it is no secret that how technology is going to play a vital role in logistics. So Internet of Things is going to impact in big way to the logistics. It will improve the operational efficiencies both in terms of speed and accuracy. Like in case of warehouse, you can really automate the entire warehousing process by eliminating the human intervention. The next big thing is coming up is the Uberization of logistics, which will open the opportunities to improve upon the cost by better utilization and the efficiencies. It is still at the nascent stage, but is evolving. There are many startups in India which are offering the services for short-haul transportation currently. So having said this, now let's see how we have improved upon the efficiency in the logistics, and what are the different ways we are used to improve the inbound logistic efficiency. So we are the $17.8 billion company having presence in many sectors, right from automotive and farm equipment sector, hospitality, retail, finance, and so on. I represent the automotive division. So we have a range of products from passenger and commercial at every price point for customers to choose. So this is our structure. So we have one of the most complex logistics and supply chain structure in India. Unlike other auto OEMs in India, we have presence almost in multiple geographies. We have our plants at south, we have plants in north, we have, although most of the plants are located in west. So we have 5 vehicle manufacturing plants, 1 at south, 1 at north, and 3 in the west. So when we talk about the freight in inbound logistics, there are 2 kind of freight. One is the IUTN, inter-unit transfer, wherein we move the aggregates from one plant to the other plant. Like we make engines in one plant and we ship it to different plants. Similarly, we make axles and transmissions and we send it to other plants. So that is the IUTN moment for us. So here we follow the strategy of dedicated, specially designed trucks so that it carry the aggregates up to the fullest utilization in terms of weight and volume, and also brings back the inbound material from the nearby cross dock when it comes back. So we'll discuss the cross dock in more detail in the coming slides. Xbox is something where we pick up the material from the supplier doorstep, pan India. So here it's our owners to pick up the material from the supplier, and we manage the entire logistics for the same. So we could see some of the possibility of exploring cost efficiencies in that area. So we have taken that area and we have brainstormed, we have come out with 6 big breakthrough ideas. Those are consolidation of load at high supply density zone, long haul movement through big containers, improving the predictability by better tracking and visibility, driving packaging efficiencies, exploring synergies, and also how we can use the backhaul very efficiently. So we have formulated a structure plan for the implementation of the same, right from the data collection to partnering with Mahindra Logistics for setting up the cross dock to making the SOPs and the commercials. So finally we come out with 9 supplier density zone, high supplier density zone, and we have worked out the feasibility for implementation at 6 zones. So this is one of the example of Pune zone, wherein we have formed 6 clusters within Pune zone, from where the separate milk runs are planned from these clusters, and the material is consorted at the Pune cross dock. So this is our milk run planning sheet, wherein each of the plant gives the trigger to the cross dock 1 day prior to the collection. The cold calling is done by the cross dock team to the suppliers in the morning, and then the milk run sheet along with the load and window timing is released for the pickup. So we have implemented a full-fledged integrated inbound logistics systems which takes care of right from the request for placement of the vehicle till the freight bill passing. So it gives the entire visibility of the stocks and commercials in the system. Like we captures the receipt and dispatches at each of the cross dock and gives the visibility in the entire supply chain. So we have leverage on the technology to the fullest extent in terms of tracking of the vehicles. So all our vehicles are fitted with GPS tracker. And apart from real-time tracking of the vehicles, we also developed the GPS dashboards and analytics, so as to get some of the insights on the downtime, average speed, average distance travel by the vehicle. We also developed an Android-based mobile application for ease of access to the supply chain people, so they can trace the vehicle from their cell phone. So one of the best way what we found out to improve the logistic efficiency is the efficient use of vehicle in the backhaul. So from our structure of supply chain, as I explained to you, we are leveraging on that, and we are using those IUTN vehicles for getting the inbound material. So that anyway we are using. So what are the other opportunities that we are exploring? So one of the example over here is that we use the scooter body truck coming from the north market to west market. So those carries the motorcycles from the north OEMs to west market. We use the same scooter body truck for sending our inbound material from our cross dock in the west to our plant in north. So we get the benefits in terms of both availability of the vehicles, shorter lead times, and so the cost. So we have been practicing the equipment pooling concept since last 4 to 5 years. This has not only relieved us from the return management of crate and bins, but also helped us to improve upon cost, quality, productivity, and ergonomics. We also improved our warehousing efficiencies by eliminating many of the non-value added operations. So when it comes to packaging, we follow the principle of part to pack and pack to truck. So here part to pack means our ability to design the packaging so as to fit maximum parts inside the pack. And pack to truck means how efficiently we are able to fit those pack into the truck so as to carry minimum air during the transportation. So whenever we design the packaging, so we have a full-fledged function of COE of packaging. So we develop those packaging based on these fundamentals. So we are driving synergies to the fullest extent. So we are having synergies within the businesses. Also, we are doing it with our group companies. So this is one of the example where we are driving synergies with our spares business unit. So here, in fact, what we have done, we have selected the distribution center of spare parts, which is located at Bangalore, as our cross dock, as a consolidation point. So the outbound vehicles carrying the spare parts from our spares division to the distribution center at Bangalore, the same vehicles brings the inbound material to our plants during the return freight. So finally, this is our structure of network of cross dock. So here on the left side, you can see the high supply density zones from where the milk runs is planned, various milk runs are planned, and the material is consolidated at the nearby cross dock. And from there, it is moved in a long haul movement through big containers to the cross dock near the plants, and from there it is distributed to the plant based on the triggers in a smaller vehicles. So mind you, this is a very complex structure of cross dock, wherein there is a movement from suppliers to the cross dock, again cross dock to cross dock, and cross dock to plant. And we have made a robust systems and processes for the success of this. So these are the kind of benefits what we have got during our implementation in last 2-3 years. So we have saved our freight 8% YOY, inventories by 25%. We have also reduced the number of transporters and trucks by over 50%. And we have simplified the freight billing passing process. Like we are not paying on per kg or per CFT kind of thing. We are paying for the full truck now, because the onus is on the cross dock and the plants to see the vehicle is utilized to the fullest extent. Apart from this, we have also improved our supply chain reliability by better predictability through tracking and visibility. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bharambe. I think, as I mentioned at the beginning, you get a sense there for just how complex the networks are that we're managing here in India, and actually how successfully some of the new concepts and innovations are being brought in. I mean, GPS-based tracking, this cross-dock network, this would not be uncommon to see in Germany, for example. So it's quite impressive. Next up to talk to us a bit about returnable packaging is DK Rai from CHEP.
Good morning to all of you once again. Thank you very much, Mr. Devendra. You touched upon equipment pooling as a concept, and that's what I wanted to talk here. But before I start, I must thank Louis and his team to giving this platform an opportunity to talk whatever we have learned over our existence in India for last 8-9 years. Working with many of you sitting in this room, many OEMs, tier 1s and service providers. In first session in morning, we heard about a lot of volumes prediction that we will be growing the way we have been growing in previous years. Although few years we have seen that there has been some sort of flat growth, not the kind of growth we expect from markets like India. We also heard that there are ever increasing challenges and complexities in overall supply chain. And if I have to add, see today we have some couple of hundreds of models and variants in the market. Hello? In the market. And the product life cycle is actually decreasing. Most of the OEMs are bringing new models, and now you see so many product launches being planned in very less span of time. What does this mean to a supply chain professional? I'm trying to put my argument around inbound supply chain. which again Mr. Devendra said is, it's although it was little discouraging that it is a low focus for OEMs because it does not touch the customer directly. But I think that is a backbone which helps us to deliver to customers. So overall, we have to think of very efficient supply chain which can help us deliver very high level of customer satisfaction, and with the three combination of cheap, fast and good. The challenge for us is we can choose just two. Either it will be cheap and good or it will be cheap and fast, but not three together. So okay, so what I'm saying here is, let's go and drill down a little bit more into inbound supply chain and think it from very non-controversial, very less conflicting areas, starting from say packaging, handling and storage, and a bit of transportation. So which are the areas where probably we can think of some sort of solution where we don't need to design very specific supply chain for those products which has to be launched with this kind of rapid speed in market, okay? And if we can have some sort of standardization. Now, a possible solution, and we have been hearing about this word in many conferences, many meetings, and many brainstorming sessions when we go and talk to various industry professionals. We talk about standardization. And it is a well-proven fact that if we go for high level of standardization, it can actually bring a lot of efficiency, can reduce cost, and can take away a lot of pain which we face on day-to-day basis in our supply chains today. But the question is that possible? Is it possible that we can have some sort of standardization in our supply chain when the outer market, externally, people are asking for so many variants? It is reaching to the stage where, you know, people want different kind of mechanism, sometimes different kind of services, sometimes different kind of colors and all those things, and that will keep on increasing. So, you know, the demand side, there is high level of customization which is needed, but at the back end, can we have some sort of standardization? Okay. Yes, it is possible if we can collaborate. Again, you know, it's another jargon. So from standardization, is that possible? Yes, but can we collaborate? So that's another question which is a very big challenge for us to examine whether we can collaborate. Now if you see the different elements of our inbound supply chain, and I'll drill down to a very basic unit of overall supply chain, very basic primary unit, which is packaging, which again I said earlier, that's where we have a very less conflict, and that is the area probably we can collaborate without much challenges. And probably if we move into that direction, we can move towards shared economy, which again Devendra touched upon in his presentation. You know, can we create a Uberization within our logistics, within our supply chain space? Today, if you see, in 8 years, 9 years of our existence, we started studying different kind of packaging being used by different OEMs. What we found is that there are more than 800 to 1,000 kind of footprints being used by tier ones and which are moving into OEM premise, or it is being decanted outside OEM premise. What does that mean is that every time you have to design different kind of storages, handling, and then, you know, decanting and line feeding. And that is where we started studying the market, and we found that basically those 800,000 footprints can be replaced by 8 to 10 standard footprints. And those 8 to 10 footprints of packaging can cater 65 to 70% of the all requirement of all OEMs. And that is spread across 4-wheeler, 2-wheeler, commercial vehicle, 3-wheeler, engine manufacturer, everywhere, and probably into white goods industry as well. And additionally, what we have also found and observed is, and we are doing it with the study with some of the industry forums and OEMs and tier ones, who have taken a lot of pioneer steps and interest into this direction, that if we add 2 to 4 more footprints, probably 90 to 95% of the demand can be actually catered through just 12 to 14 footprints. And that is where we see a big opportunity. So is this pooling as a concept is something which has to be talked only in these conferences, or something which is already happening in the market? And that's where it's very encouraging. What we have found is that there is already more than 300 tier 1s, and many OEMs and many of you sitting in this room are actually participating in this pooling. So lot of packaging, standard packaging footprints have been created, and it is being pooled. And it is from our country, the way we have a manufacturing hubs in say 4, 5, and the kind of movements we have. Just visualize an alternator being produced in Delhi is being transported to Chennai, and the similar kind of alternator being produced in Chennai and coming back to Delhi. If there is something which can commonize this movement, can help us gain a lot of efficiency and can make us little bit better in managing our inbound supply chain, even if at front end we have to compete with many variants and different models. And that's what is very encouraging trend we have seen in the market. And my argument is that we must encourage this trend going forward as well. So it's very obvious, if we start collaborating in a more proactive manner, we can see little greener supply chain. Had it not been a very interesting US election results and that currency surgical strike yesterday, Delhi smog was the news which we all were talking, and there were some messages from my overseas colleagues whether it is safe to travel to Delhi or not, the kind of pollution we have. And the easiest target which is attacked during these kind of discussions is unfortunately automotive industry. People find it easier, and it is something which is supposed to be one of the biggest polluter to the market, to the environment, and that is what is attacked. Now, with very small innovative steps, probably we can demonstrate that in manufacturing process, at least we have started saving trees and we have started saving environment. As per a study, we found that basically 1 ton of cardboard box that needs 17 trees to be cut, which are 10 to 12 years grown. And that's a kind of carbon footprint we can reduce if we just take a very small step of moving from one-way packaging to returnable, reusable packaging. And further, we can gain efficiency if we can move towards something which is pooling, sharing the resources, and agreeing on some standard footprints. And again, this is something which is very, very non-conflicting, and there is something which is in interest of the larger industry and all the people in automotive industry beyond a particular brand or particular tier 1 group, or for that matter, 2-wheeler, 4-wheeler or commercial vehicle. So my argument here is, okay, technology always fails me. Yeah. Collaboration is the key, and we have been encouraged by some of the industry forums in India. I can see some of the colleagues from CII, they helped us to publish a standard footprint packaging, at least starting with the pilot footprints. And we are trying to advocate and we are trying to encourage, with the help of all of you, to agree on some sort of minimum standard footprints of packaging. And the one request to OEMs here sitting in this room is that you, being at the top of the hierarchy, has to play a very proactive role. The total cost of ownership, which I'm sure many of us will be talking about during these 2 days of conference, that is what has to be viewed. If it is viewed into isolation just from tier 1 or from OEM or from service provider, probably it will not make sense. As I said, cheap, fast and good. All these 3 together in combination cannot be achieved. You can get just 2. Either it will be cheap and good, it will not be fast. So we have to think of, total cost of ownership. We'll have to think of the overall benefit as an industry we will get versus as an individual player we will get. It will take time, but there has been very encouraging trend, and I hope that this will continue. With this, I'll finish my slides. We are here in the conference. If anybody interested to discuss furthermore, we'll be very happy to help you with our observations and learnings we have got in the industry. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DK. Again, some important messages there. Great to see 300 plus manufacturers already going in this direction. Certainly a lot of room to go further. Landing in from London, obviously we can't help but notice the certain air quality that's not quite up to standard. So anything that can be done, I think, to improve this is obviously very, very welcome. And what we can do in this industry is important as well. Moving on now, slightly in region perhaps, I'd like to invite Vegard Synnes from CDC, part of Changzhou Logistics in China.
Okay, dear colleagues, fantastic to be here with you in Delhi today. My name is Vegard. I'm here representing a Chinese logistic company, CDC International Logistics. I will not to take focus too much away from India, but considering that the Chinese and the Indian automotive industry share some similarities in its development process, I hope me sharing with you some of the things that we do in China in order to accelerate efficiency will have some value. So as this is our first appearance in Delhi, I would like to very quickly give you an introduction to who we are and what we do. Okay, so CDC are a modernized professional logistic company who focus 100% on the automotive industry. We are headquartered in Shanghai and have more than 2,000 employees. We had 30 branches in China and 2 overseas. We offer services in all modes of transportation, as well as warehouse services in China, and also value-added services such as global returnable packaging, milk run pickup and consolidation, KD packaging, IT solutions, and last but not least, production logistics. Our mother company and co-sponsor of this event is Changzhou Logistics. Changzhou was the first automotive logistic company to go public in China, and is also the 5th largest in size. Among the list of the top automotive logistic companies, we are the only one who are private, now also public owned, and operate completely independent from the big Chinese state-owned OEMs. So, how do we accelerate efficiency in China? Before looking at the specifics of that, I'd like to present some of the ground floor challenges that we face in the Chinese automotive industry. First, there's too much ground floor. A recent report showed that in 2015, there was capacity to produce 31 million units in China. Only 21 million was actually produced. And so this is an overcapacity of 32% roughly. And this has contributed to a somewhat stretched out supply chain. You have car makers who have huge capacity but are not producing even by half. And this makes it difficult for us to focus efforts and investments in order to accelerate efficiency at these locations and with these plants. Also, same in China as in India, more and more cars are on the production lines, and this brings with it a more complex supply chain. Right now in China, there's more than 500 models being produced, and this changes rapidly as well. From what we've seen, this brings with it certain supply chain uncertainties. And we've seen in several cases that both inventory levels have been growing pretty high, and there's also been a lot of scheduling issues for inbound shipments. Another big issue is the fragmented transportation industry in China. It's estimated that over 700,000 trucking companies operate in China, compared to only 7,000 in the US. So it's a huge difference. Another one, as in all developing countries, the cost of labor is rising. From the graph here, you can see that how the minimum wage in China has more than tripled over the past decade. And the time where Chinese labor was an infinite resource is definitely gone. And both for us in logistics and also for the car makers to some extent in China, there is a struggle to get the qualified workers. So that's also another challenge. But perhaps the biggest challenge for efficiency in China is the huge quality disparity. There's so many different players touching the supply chain at some point, and it's very hard to make sure that all of these players have the quality level and operate at an efficient enough way to have the whole supply chain running smoothly. You can't always know who you're dealing with. That's a quick comparison there. Are you dealing with Batman and his stone wheel car, or are you dealing with Batman and the Batmobile? So how do we at CDC, and also other players in China, work on coping with these issues and accelerate efficiency? First off, we are looking at ways to proactively manage the complexities of the automotive supply chain. We are aggressively gearing up our cooperation with other logistic companies and other players in the industry, both in China and internationally, in order to try to become more agile in the way we operate, to be able to respond quicker to sudden changes in the supply chain. Also, as was mentioned before here, supply chain visibility. We need to improve it. We are currently doing this by upgrading our IT systems, and we're also focusing very much on RFID tracking, both for our packaging and for our mother company who is doing finished vehicles. We use a lot of RFID to improve visibility. Improved visibility is also a big focus from the Chinese government side. They have this plan called Made in China 2025, where they seek to improve and modernize the Chinese manufacturing and its related industries, such as logistics. And they are really pushing better planning and smarter technology in order to achieve this Made in China 2025 plan. Okay, so I mentioned quality disparity. Let's have a quick look at that. The car makers, same in China as in India, are very good at incentivizing us. I mean what I've called the frontline service providers. Very good at incentivizing us to perform at a high quality level. So the frontline service provider, the 3PL, or the company, the logistic company being directly contracted by the OEM, who are present in their factories or in their warehouses, we need to have the routines, the operating standards, the equipment to perform according to a high quality level. But what then about our subcontractors? Say, for example, the local transportation providers that we use a lot in our operations. How can we incentivize and enable them to also operate at an efficient level? One way we have dealt with this in China is by setting up a transportation platform. This platform enables our subcontracted drivers to connect directly to our system using their smartphones. In this way, we can simply send out orders, we can track movement and location through GPS on their phones, same way as we do with our own trucks and our own drivers. And by doing this, we can ultimately help push these, what I call the back-end service providers, to also perform efficiently. We call this an enabling technology. With so many smaller, I guess it's somewhat similar in India. You have a lot of smaller local companies operating, same as in China. And with all these companies, we need to have the tools and the equipment to help them to also operate more efficiently. And in this way, what we have managed to do in China at least is to better utilize existing assets in the market. This is something we're working on, or we are doing, have been doing for a couple of years now, in our search to expand what I've termed the circle of quality here. Okay, on to packaging, which is a big topic just now. We also do a little bit of packaging in China. In recent years in China, there's been a big push towards returnables, same as here in India. When you introduce returnables, it brings with it a lot of advantages. It makes more sense to optimize design and functionality, but it also brings with it some complexities because you need to manage the flows, the packaging flows in a much better way. Much like other companies, like CHEP, for example, we opt for a pooling solution of our returnables in China. In a pooling solution, as was also mentioned, you are very dependent on a certain degree of standardization. Standardization of the blue box or a plastic box, this is one thing, but something that we're looking at now is standardization of automotive component racks. Every OEM usually have their specific footprint, and they need their own racks for their operations. We seek to challenge this by developing what we call the semi-customizable racks. Racks that can be customized to suit several different footprints, and thus can actually be utilized in a pooling solution. On the pictures here, you can see our engine, our semi-customizable engine rack that we're trying to put into operations now. Also, another thing is mentioned again and again, and I did not copy my colleague's slide, but when it comes to returnable packaging, we need to have a bigger focus on cooperation. We need more focus, we need more cooperation between the users of the returnable packaging, but also between the providers. When we get there, or as our networks grow and as our packaging pools grow and more players get involved in the management of these, we need to improve the ways that we actually manage our returnable networks. Over the past year, we have been working on redesigning our network in China. Before, we used to have more of a point-to-point setup, or from supplier to manufacturer and back again. But now we kind of redesigned it to actually accommodate the pooling solution we're setting up. You can see like a map of our before and after routes for our returnable network in China here. Okay, so another focus that we need to adapt in order to accelerate efficiency, and that we're working on in China, is to do more with less. We need, as I mentioned before, labor wages are rising, so we can't just throw more labor at a problem and hope it solves itself anymore. We need to have the right employees, skilled and qualified people who can perform at a top level. That is why we regularly arrange training seminars and skill improvement sessions for all our workers, all the way from management and down to the guys on the floor. In some situations, we also need to look for other alternatives to manual labor. We were an early adapter in China. We started introducing AGVs and automatic picking lines at one of our biggest clients in China, Chery Automobile, back in 2014. And we have seen that up until now, this has actually reduced our need for people on the floor with around 5 to 10%. And this leaves the people who are actually in the warehouse more free to focus on the more urgent tasks than just the routine movement of goods within the warehouse. Also, something we're working on is to introduce more intelligent systems. Every way from how we manage our inbound and outbound shipments, also to how our warehouses are set up in order to facilitate for the work we do there to go as smoothly as possible. We started introducing pick by light in our warehouses back in 2013, and we have them in almost all our warehouses now. And we're also now looking at pick by vision to further increase the efficiency of our workers in the warehouses. And also, finally, we need to eliminate waste in the way we work for us to be as efficient as possible. So, to quickly recap what we are doing in China in order to accelerate efficiency, and perhaps also what you guys are doing here with some similarities, or what you can be doing here, is that first, you got to think ahead, manage future complexities. You got to expand your circle of quality, optimize your networks, and make sure you get as much use of your assets as possible, and you got to do more with less. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vegard. I think it's always interesting to kind of compare and contrast regions, and I think China and India obviously stand out as markets which, as Vegard pointed out, do have some similarities, even if the volume scenario is quite different. So probably a lot we can absorb from that, some which would apply to India, some not, but I always appreciate that perspective. Before we go on to Q&A, I'd like to invite our panelist, Shrikant Mahiyaria from the Inland Waterways to give us some perspective.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to speak. I am Shrikant Mahiyaria from Inland Waterways Authority of India, which is an autonomous body under the Ministry of Shipping, Government of India. Inland Waterways Authority of India, or IWAI for short, was established in 1986 under an Act of Parliament, and it is responsible for the development and regulation of inland waterways for shipping and navigation in India. Its key functions include infrastructure development and regulations of national waterways, techno-economic feasibility studies, making proposals for declaration of new waterways, advise central government on inland waterways transportation matters, and also assist the state governments in IWT development. Inland waterways transportation is a new sector. As you know that the British built the railways, and after independence, the government of India and the state governments, they developed the road network. Rivers were never seen as, if you discount the ancient and medieval times where rivers were used for navigation and shipping, but in the last 200, 300 years, rivers got left behind. But the new government is very keen to develop inland waterways as an alternative mode of transportation. And that is why now there is a lot of emphasis on developing the waterways. And inland waterways transportation is seen as an alternative to railways and roadways, both networks which are heavily saturated in India and which have congestion issues also. It is also environment friendly because with LNG, if you use LNG barges in future, then it's a very environment friendly mode of transportation, and it leaves very little carbon footprint. It is also easier to develop because it doesn't involve acquisition of land. Inland waterways transportation is primarily a natural mode of transportation. So these are the reasons for which the government, the central government, is placing a lot of emphasis on the development of inland waterways. It is ideally suited for transportation of bulk goods like coal, cement, mineral ores, stone chips, food grain, fertilizer, over-dimensional cargo and project cargo, containers, automobiles, and ro-ro movement. Till the beginning of this year, we had 5 national waterways. National Waterway 1, which is Ganga, from Allahabad to Haldia, of a length of 1,620 kilometers. National Waterway 2, which is River Brahmaputra, from Sadia to Dhubri in the state of Assam, which is 891 kilometers. National Waterway 3, which comprises of the canal network in the state of Kerala, with a total length of 205 kilometers. National Waterway 4, which is Kakinada and Puducherry canals along with Godavari and Krishna river systems in the state of Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu and UT of Pondicherry, with a total length of 1,078 kilometers. And National Waterway 5, which is the Brahmani and the Mahanadi river systems in the state of Odisha, with a total length of 588 kilometers. Apart from these 5 national waterways, in the beginning of this year, 106 new national waterways were notified by the government under an Act of Parliament all across India. National Waterway 1, which is Ganga, from Banaras to Haldia, that is our flagship project, and it is being developed with the financial and technical assistance of World Bank, and the financial assistance is almost to the tune of 5,000 crores. And this project would enable commercial navigation of 1,500 to 2,000 ton vessels from Haldia to Varanasi in phase 1, and then subsequently up to Allahabad in phase 2. As a part of this project, 3 multimodal terminals are going to come up at Varanasi in UP, Sahibganj in Jharkhand, and Haldia in West Bengal. These multimodal terminals obviously will have railway and road connectivity also, along with warehousing facilities. We are going to insert a new navigational lock at Farakka barrage for navigation. And, and there is a plan to maintain a short depth between Farakka and Kahalgaon. Apart from these multimodal terminals, which will be big terminals, several small terminals will also come up at various locations on National Waterway 1. As a part of Jalmarg Vikas project, IWAI has appointed a consultant to design a shallow draft vessel. As all of you know, draft is a big issue in Indian rivers because the rivers of the Indo-Gangetic plain, they have a tendency of heavy deposition of silt. So, in order to take care of the draft issue, IWAI has appointed a consultant, a foreign consultant, who will come out with the design of a shallow draft vessel of various categories. This shallow draft vessel will be in the category of ro-ro vessel, in the category of car carrier, in the category of bulk carrier, and also oil tanks. So we hope to receive this design within a few months, and then we will make this design public for vessel manufacturers and operators. And already there is a scheme announced by Government of India which gives 20% subsidy to vessel manufacturers for making riverine vessels, for making inland waterways vessels. The present cargo movement which is taking place on National Waterway 1, that is Ganga, is of imported thermal coal, which is transported from high seas in Bay of Bengal to the Farakka thermal powerhouse. And in the year 1516, about 7,23,000 tons of coal was moved from high seas to Farakka thermal powerhouse by Jindal ITF. Coming specifically to the issue of automotive logistics, I would like to inform you that ro-ro movement is already taking place on Ganga at several locations, in Brahmaputra at a place called Hatsinghi Mari, where since January this year, 2 ro-ro vessels have been pressed into service. And ro-ro movement is also taking place on National Waterway 1 in the Cochin Port area between Bolgati and Wellington Islands, whereby containers are transported, loaded as well as empty containers are transported through a ro-ro service to Valarpadam International Container Transshipment Terminal. And apart from the ro-ro services, regular voyages of tourist vessels are also taking place on Ganga as well as on Brahmaputra. In the month of August, we transported 30 cars of Maruti India Limited. I can see Mr. Sarvahi sitting here. So we entered into, IWI entered into a memorandum of understanding with Maruti India during the Maritime India Summit in Bombay in April this year. And as a follow-up to that MOU, we transported 30 cars of Maruti from Banaras to Calcutta, and the vessel was flagged off. It was a 300-ton vessel, and it was flagged off by Honorable Minister for Shipping, Shri Nitin Gadkari, on 12th of August. And the vessel took about 6 days from Varanasi to reach Calcutta, and it was a successful operation. We are also moving a lot of ODC cargo on Ganga. Last year, about 6,000 tons of metric tons of ODC was moved on National Waterway 1 through the Anglo-Bangladesh Protocol route. IWI has certain challenges. The biggest challenge is the navigability of the rivers due to siltation, meandering, and acute bends. Second challenge is the edge which the other modes of transport have over inland waterways transportation, and also the first mile and the last mile connectivity issues. We are addressing all these issues one by one within about 2 to 3 years' time, Ganga will be fully navigable from Banaras to Haldia with these 3 multimodal terminals and other smaller terminals. We are going to acquire vessels, either most probably through leasing, for transportation of intermediate cargo of stone chips, construction material between Patna and Farakka, and also to provide RoRo services. We have identified about 15 locations on National Waterway 1, that is Ganga, where these RoRo services will be started, and we are in the process of acquiring RoRo vessels. Already, as I had mentioned earlier, already RoRo movement is taking place at Sahibganj, between Sahibganj and Mahiyari, where trucks loaded with stone chips, with construction material, they are being transported from one bank of the river to the other bank. The way forward is to make the rivers navigable, number one, to undertake infrastructure development, which includes terminals, and to make available vessels, both for the movement of bulk cargo as well as for automotive cargo. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, more very interesting developments happening here in India. Shows the real commitment to multimodal transport that we see from the government in India, and of course engagement with the sector itself. So very interested to see how this develops, and hopefully inland waterways can play a bigger role over the next 300 years than they perhaps did over the last 300. We've got about 15 minutes that we can open the floor back up for questions. One of the things I love most about the India conference is that you ask lots of questions and make my job up here much easier. So I'm hoping that will be the case here as well. Usual format, we'll have some microphones going around, so if anyone has any questions, they can put their hand up, and we'll start right here in the middle.
Good morning, I am Jayaprakash from JK taking care of metal planning and logistics. My question to Mr. Dev. The present issue is that the integration of IT sectors, that from supplier to OEMs, we are doing the ASN. But the LSP part is not, we expected earlier years, more integration. It's not happening. For example, we are doing a part load. For example, in case of full truck load, all LSPs giving a GPS access, we can see the material. For example, a part load, we are moving a material from Chennai to Delhi. What happening, we show the material is moved, but we are not able to find where is the material. In upcoming years, how this problem can be solved?
Yeah, very good question, Jayaprakash. So basically here we have to see that how we are partnering with the LSP and how we are driving those SLAs. Like if we demand the traceability and tracking, and if we are ready to pay for that. So see now what everybody wants, people wants it at lower cost, and then they want to move a smaller loads, and that gives the market vehicles access to market vehicle, and that gives all the issues of low tracking and all those things. So basically if you partner with better LSPs and make the SLAs so strong, and if you are ready to pay for the tracking, I think that is a solution. We have to show the willingness that we are ready to pay, but we want the visibility. If we demand it, definitely it will happen, because we have also seen that the progress was slow earlier, but now we are almost 99% able to track our vehicles. So basically better tracking and better partnership is required with a long-term relationship. So that is the solution.
Okay, thank you. Did we have any other questions? Right in the back, thank you.
My name is Ramesh Kumar. The question is for the gentleman from India Inland Waterways. Sir, you spoke about, in August, Maruti pushed, say, around 30 cars, am I right? That's right, yeah. So, I have two, three questions. Question number one, 6 days from Varanasi to Calcutta, is slightly, looks like longer. If, anything moves from, considering the fact that Maruti has a plant in Manesar and Gurgaon, from here to Calcutta, it doesn't take, 6, 7 days it can reach directly. Considering the fact that, it has to obviously, from Gurgaon or Manesar, it has to move by road to Varanasi. From Varanasi, from Haldia again, wherever it halts, there's a multiple handling. The question is, apart from Maruti, any other North India-based manufacturer like Honda has, started moving the stuff? And why after the first lot, possibly of Maruti 30, has it, come out with another lot? Is it because of, the long duration, or is it because of cost considerations? That's it.
The thing is this, that it took 6 days, primarily because of the speed of the vessel. The vessel was slightly old. And secondly, it takes almost 3 hours to negotiate the Farakka lock. Now, once we have the new lock, then it will take about 40 to 50 minutes to negotiate the lock. That is one. I agree with you that as compared to road, or maybe as compared to railways, the transit time is definitely more in case of waterways because of the typical nature of the river and various other issues which I mentioned just now. But hopefully in the next 2 years or so, with the new lock at Farakka and with the improved navigation, which includes navigational aids also, this transit time should come down drastically. That is one. Secondly, we had a meeting with Honda Motors also in Greater Noida, and our proposal for transportation for a similar movement from Varanasi to Calcutta, that is under consideration with Honda. And in fact, I do not know whether Mr. Bharambe would be aware of it, but we have got in touch with Mahindra and Mahindra also for moving some of their vehicles from your Haridwar plant. I do not, some gentleman called Nidish is... Achha, you are there. So we are in touch with Mahindra and Mahindra also. The thing is this, that presently we do not have a car carrier. So what we did in August was we used one of our dry cargo vessels, which is 300 ton capacity, to move these cars, and we are going to do the same for Mahindra and Mahindra also, just to generate confidence in the trade and to demonstrate our capability to undertake this kind of automotive movement also. But we are going to acquire vessels of minimum, car carriers of minimum 300 vehicles capacity. Only then this movement will become commercially viable, and we will be able to sell our proposal to the industry. And only when it becomes commercially viable and it becomes cheaper than rail and road, would be able to compensate for the slightly longer transit time.
Maybe just a quick follow-up on that. You're going to invest in some vessels, but do you expect to allow private operators as well to operate?
In fact, the IWI owns only 7 cargo vessels. All other vessels are in the private sector, and vessel operations are in the private sector. So, private sector is most welcome.
Yeah, right. And I think Nadish is speaking in the next session, if I'm not mistaken, so maybe we get a chance to hear from him a little bit more directly on those possibilities. We have another question right in the back.
Yeah, good afternoon. This is Achal Paliwal from Tata Motors. I have a question to Devendra.
Yeah.
From OEM perspective, multimodal transportation has always been a very favorite subject, being the future out here. However, the first mile and last mile have been the major concerns. First mile has been taken care to a lot of extent, but last mile, there's still a big worry. And I'm really surprised and feel concerned with your statement saying that to track OEM has to pay. That reminds me the days when I used to ask transporters, what are you doing? Why have you damaged the cars? They will say, sir, my job is to transport. So I've transported. Whether it is a damaged or if it is a OK car or defectory, I don't care. I get money for transportation, so I've transported. Now, question is, the new age logistics service providers, whether they are 4PL or 3PL, what kind of delivery package or delivery service quality package they have? Is it a pay for every kind of aspect, or there is some composite delivery package for which they bid and they provide?
Okay.
Over to Devendra.
So your question is on inbound, or you are talking about the outbound logistics as such? Inbound, right?
Outbound.
Outbound, yeah. See, I don't handle the outbound, so maybe you can ask this question in the next session when Nitish is presenting. So I basically handle the inbound logistics as such. So we don't have first mile and last mile. It is point-to-point deliveries. And even if there are transshipments, those are done in our cross dock, which are managed by our partner. So there is no first mile and last mile in case of inbound logistics per se. So maybe you can ask this question in the next session when Nitish is presenting on outbound logistics.
Okay, thank you. Did we have another hand up? Oh, yeah, sorry, struggled to see.
Hello, my question to Mr. Shrikant. I am Ravindra Kumar from Global Supply Chain Group. See, you have given presentation about the navigation through river. We have inland container depot, we call dry port in India, which has a connectivity through rail and which handle the import-export activity. And in India, we have the river-based port, that is Calcutta port. So do you planning to have a similar river ports also, which can handle import-export activities? Like we have the dry port, which we call ICD, Inland Container Depot. Do you have such plans?
Yes, yes. All these, the two terminals, out of the 3 multimodal terminals which will come up on National Waterway 1, 2 terminals, that is Haldia and Banaras, they will be dry ports, they will be ICDs. And apart from that, we have a terminal at Garden Reach. That terminal and the terminal at Patna, which is at a place called Gai Ghat, the Gai Ghat terminal. These 2 terminals will also be used for container movement, may not be as ICDs, may not be as dry ports, but there is already this concept of having an extended gate. I do not know whether you have heard this discussion on extended gate, because Calcutta port as well as Ministry of Shipping, they are seriously considering to have an extended gate of Calcutta port, whereby the cargo, the incoming as well as the import as well as export cargo, which is not meant for Calcutta, like at least 40% of the cargo which comes to Calcutta port, the import cargo, is meant for destinations north of Calcutta. So there is a plan to take it up on the river somewhere near Tribeni or whatever. So definitely, anyway, answering your question, these 2 terminals will be ICDs, Haldia and Banaras.
And do you have any plan to integrate with the coastal shippings?
Yes, yes, very much. Okay. The national waterways, the story of national waterways will be successful only when we integrate national waterways movement with ports and with coastal shipping. So this will be particularly in the case of National Waterway 5 in the state of Odisha, where the National Waterway 5 provides connectivity between Talcher, that is the Mahanadi Coalfields Limited area, to Dhamra and Paradip ports. So the thermal coal, which is produced in Mahanadi Coalfields Limited, once this National Waterway 5 is operational, will be moved from Talcher area to these 2 ports, and through coastal shipping, it will be supplied to the various thermal powerhouses along the coastline. And similarly, the coking coal, the imported coking coal, which comes to Dhamra and Paradip ports, and which is meant for the Kalinganagar industrial area, that will also be moved from these ports to the Kalinganagar industrial area on National Waterway 5. But yes, of course, Coastal shipping, we are working in active cooperation with the Sagarmala project, that is the coastal shipping project.
Thank you, sir. But as far my information goes, we have coastal shipping, lot of incentive was given by Government of India
Yeah.
to move two-wheeler, four-wheeler. I mean, there lot of incentive they have been given. But I find there is hardly any taker as far as the policy is concerned.
For coastal shipping.
Yeah, to utilize the coastal shipping, to move the cargo, whether it is a two-wheeler, four-wheeler or bulk cargo, they have given the incentive per vehicle 3,000, 6,000 rupees or metric ton 3,000. But it has not, I think, find much favorable.
Yeah, something happened between Mangalore and Gujarat, I think Mangalore and Surat or something. Some movement did take place, but I think it wasn't very successful. So
Thank
yes,
you.
there are certain issues with coastal shipping.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question right in the middle here. We'll move the mic over.
Hello, my question is for Mr. Devendra. We saw your network design, which is like excellently done for your plants, and like we are the tier 1 suppliers supplying to Mahindra. We have also got similar setups. We have our plants and locations set according to your locations. So how can like tier 1 suppliers like us who are operating on the similar model can benefit with the model which you have created? Because we are independently working.
Yeah.
Like I saw you talking about Xworks, which has been controlled by Mahindra. But what about like goods, what we are delivering it? So would we be able to benefit from this network?
Yes. So in fact, now we have developed this network of the cross dock, and now we are able to move our shipments where we manage the logistics. So what we have done as the next step, we are getting in touch with the suppliers. Like we have the cross dock in Gurgaon. We are shipping most of our Xworks metal from Gurgaon to our Nasik cross dock. But now we are in touch with our suppliers in Gurgaon who are free delivery to us, or who has their another plant in West and they want to ship their metal. So we are in touch with them, and we have also converted some of the suppliers from free delivery to Xworks. So the entire logistic parts, we are taking care of it, or we are giving them the services by charging them some cost, which is a win-win situation for both of them because they are able to consolidate the metal. So definitely we can look for, if you have specific case, we can look for the consolidation and we can get the win-win benefits for both of us.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any, oh, sorry, we have Brett. Yeah, you had in there.
Hello, this is Mahiyaria representing from Renault Nissan. My question is to CHEP India. We are using currently CHEP services for all our inbound suppliers, and it's working well. And similarly, we want this similar expertise solution for our after-sales distribution. See, currently we have regional warehouses in north, south, and west region. But currently, all we are doing with the regular cotton boxes and standard packaging. So where we want to convert into CHEP kind of returnable packaging. And we also had some initial discussion with your team in Chennai. We understand as of now this expertise is not extended to the after sales CHEP solutions.
Thank you for your question. What is the second part you said? It's not extended to overseas?
After sales distribution.
After sales.
See, for example, in after sales, one example for handling the windshield will be a very difficult thing. Say if a car is in the Vivo or position, if you are shipping a windshield from Chennai to Delhi, and if finally received in a broken condition, ultimately all the efforts and the premium freight will be wasted. So we need a expertise solution on the CHEP packaging, like an inbound solution, so which can cater the after sales requirement.
Thank you for your question, and Louis, thank you very much. I have got some business. The challenge for after sales in India is it's very fragmented. So the control over assets, and I'm not talking it from CHEP perspective, it is from anybody who is running a pool of assets in the market. The control of assets is very essential, and that is how it can become sustainable. So from sustainability point of view, we have to have a very tight control over assets between the points it is going to move. In case of after sales, the control is little less, and that is where we are trying to figure out if we can extend or this kind of services can be extended to after sales and after services kind of network, because most of the distributor point probably we can reach up to, but not to the dealer level because assets may get lost and slowly it may start, impacting the overall participants of that kind of services. So that's a challenge. Yeah, but there is an opportunity for I and you to have discussion after this.
At least you can start from tier 1 cities where already you have a network.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, I think we're kind of coming towards the end here, unless there's another, I can maybe make time for one more burning question if there is one. If not, maybe you're getting a bit hungry, as I am as well. So perhaps we will leave it there, but I'd like to first thank our panel for a great presentation and discussions. Thank you all as well for your participation. Please join us for lunch. It's going to be a buffet right outside this, outside where the coffee is, and we'll be back in here afterwards talking about keeping the metal moving. So enjoy your lunch.
You